Okay, it's time for yet another Skillet mock draft. Here we are. I'm in front of my laptop with my big board, and that should be on the screen. Shout out, huge thank you to Mullet. He basically made this video. I supplied the mock draft and this audio of me talking. He supplied everything else that you're going to see in this. So thank you once again, Mullet. Mock draft videos are big. My last mock draft video hit 1,000 views, which for me, for my channel, is pretty big. I guess we'll shoot for, how about 2K views on this one? How about that? Does that sound good? I guess we'll just get into it. Here's a look at the big board. Some people might have a top 10 big board. Some people might have 20, 25. Some people might even be crazy and at this time of year have like a 100 player big board. Now, I will have that later, probably after the combine. But for now, we're going with 40. And there's not much real surprising here. I think maybe the wide receivers placement might confuse some people. Or the quarterback placement. I think it's pretty solid, at least for right now. There's some players I really wanted to include, like Brenton Cox and David Bell, who made the list. And there's some players that are maybe a little lower than you might expect, like David Ajabo. And I'll get into all of that when I get to them in the mock draft. So let's go ahead and transition into that. First pick, Detroit Lions. They got their first win. Good for them. It's time to get a heck of a player in the draft. So the easy pick here, and probably the presumptive pick right now, is Kayvon Thibodeau. And this is going to pain me slightly as an Ohio State fan, but I am realistic. I'm actually going to go with Aiden Hutchinson at pick 1 this time around to the Detroit Lions. I think that the season he's had at least has to put him in the conversation. And I know Kayvon is a great prospect in his own right. You could argue Kayvon's the Myles Garrett-esque player of this draft class. You could also say Aiden Hutchinson is like the J.J. Watt-esque player of this draft class. I think he's a dominant edge player. You see what he's done this season. You see what he's done for a few seasons now. And he's really been the leader of that Michigan team that beat Ohio State, which I did not think they really had a chance to win that game. Maybe not as objective as I like to be, but that was the case. And I think he's made his case to go number 1, and I think at least needs to be in the discussion. So pick 1, Aiden Hutchinson. Also stays in Michigan, which is kind of cool. We'll see if it happens. I think at number 2 now with the Texans, that kind of leaves them to take Kayvon Thibodeau. And it's a big pick. They are going to need a quarterback for an obvious reason that we won't get into here because it's a mock draft video, not a Texans explanation video. I'm sure those exist if you really want to see. We're going to take Thibodeau, though, because he really is, right now, the best prospect overall. And he's young. He's still a junior, as opposed to, I mean, they're all young, right? Hutchinson, though, is a senior. Thibodeau's a junior. You saw him be limited by injuries this year, which I'm really not concerned about. There's multiple really good players at the top of the board that had injury-shortened seasons. Thibodeau. We'll get to Kyle Hamilton pretty soon. We'll get to Derek Stingley soon. Not concerned about that really long-term. But yeah, I mean, how do you pass? I know I had the Lions pass, but if you're the Texans, I think you just have to draft best available player all across the board. If you saw the Colts game, if you've seen them play really at all this year, Houston has been terrible. Davis Mills is not the answer. Tyrod Taylor, unfortunately, is not the answer either. They do need a QB, but I think at the value right here at 2, they could trade back. There's going to be a lot of teams at the top of the board that I will say could trade back. Detroit really is one of them included. But here, you take Thibodeau, you move on to the second round. Or, if they trade Deshaun Watson, maybe they have other first-round picks. But for right now, at pick 2 is Kayvon Thibodeau. Pick 3, Jacksonville Jaguars right now. What do they need the most? I mean, I would say offensive line to replace Cam Robinson, who's actually been decent. Their defense is pretty bad. Their defense is pretty bad in general. I mean, do you just make it a 1-2-3 edge? 3 edge players off the board right away? Probably not. They did trade a corner. They traded C.J. Henderson away early. Like, I didn't really understand that one. But because they did that, I think we're going to go Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Kyle Hamilton immediately becomes their best, probably their best secondary player, with no disrespect to Shaquille Griffin. He's definitely their best safety. They released their best safety this year, Gerard Wilson. Or did they trade him to the Jets? I actually don't remember. A weird move. Multiple weird moves by Jacksonville. We're not sure if Urban Meyer is going to be the head coach next year, but we are sure that they have their quarterback of the future in Trevor Lawrence. Do need some receivers. I like Chark, who is a free agent impending, and I like Laviska Shenault. Marvin Jones is also a free agent upcoming. I think you could consider a receiver this highly, but it's just a little too high for me. So for right now, we're going to go Kyle Hamilton, pick 3 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's 1, 2, 3 off my big board so far, so nothing too shocking. Next up, the Jets have back-to-back picks here. And you figure they also have their quarterback they're going to at least stick with for now in Zach Wilson, despite a rough rookie year. I think O-line is in play. I think wide receiver is in play. I think they would love Kyle Hamilton. Marcus May is an impending free agent after playing on the franchise tag. You have a cornerback group that is okay. You have Bryce Hall. You really don't have a ton after that. So corner definitely is in play. DeMarvin Leal might be the next best player, and according to my big board, that's what it says. He is the next best available player. But the Jets actually have an abundance of quality defensive linemen. Of course, Quinnen Williams and Fadukasi. Am I getting that one right? As well as other guys like John Franklin Myers, who's really a big edge at about 300 pounds. So DeMarvin Leal, not the biggest need here. I think for the Jets, I think you do need secondary help. And after Kyle Hamilton, I think your best bet is going to be Derek Stingley Jr. He's going to come in, hopefully healed up from his early season-ending surgery, and hopefully be that number 1 true corner with Bryce Hall playing opposite. I like the fit. I like Stingley in New York. I think it's a good pick. And then, honestly, for their second, I think we're going to have to address O-line. This one's tough because you have Mekhi Becton, who also was a first-round pick in his draft class, and was also hurt this season, unfortunately. Now, he is going to be your long-term left tackle. And they also drafted Elijah Vera Tucker last year. This just, man, I want the Jets to trade this pick down just to see it happen, because I really don't like the Jets at this pick. I know it's like you have every single player in the draft available to you, but I don't love them at this spot. I mean, we could go with a third edge, but I really don't know if I want to take one at 5. Also, 2 defensive players. Could start thinking about receiver. It's really not too early. Receivers go early. Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, both, I think, are conversational for top 10 picks. George Karlaftis is so good too. The reason I have, well, I guess I'll talk about it now. The reason I have Karlaftis over Ajabo mainly, I think Karlaftis is better right now, but I think David Ajabo will have a great combine. He's had a great season, but he's also had Aiden Hutchinson on his other side, right? Like, George Karlaftis doesn't have another top 10 caliber player that he's playing with on the defensive line right now. Shout out to Purdue basketball as well, number 1. That's cool. Man, I kind of want to go edge, but I think we have to address the O-line. I'm actually not going to go Evan Neal here either. He is my number one offensive lineman still right now. I'm actually going to go Ikem Ekwonu from NC State. I know, top 5 pick for Ikem. He has been a huge riser. He's number 13 on my big board, so it's maybe a bit of a reach. But to me, I think he could play right tackle or right guard, and I think the flexibility there might be a little bit better than taking Evan Neal. Evan Neal kind of and this might sound unfavorable, especially with the Giants coming up. Evan Neal kind of reminds me of Andrew Thomas more than he reminds me of a guy like Tristan Wirfs or Mekhi Becton or even Jedrick Wills as a prospect. And I like Evan Neal, and I like Andrew Thomas. I like them all, right? As prospects. I don't know. I'll give him Ikem for now at 5. That's definitely the highest I've had him going, by the way. But just kind of the more natural flexibility where I think he could end up playing guard and be great, or play right tackle and be just really solid. It's early, but I like the fit. That's kind of why I was saying I kind of hope the Jets. This was the Seahawks pick, by the way. I kind of hope the Seahawks maybe win some more games to move this pick down, or else the Jets actually do something here in the last few games. So that leaves the Giants. Have we seen enough of Daniel Jones? I think I have. The weird thing about the Giants is a lot of things, right? Daniel Jones is like just on the very fringe of everyone being like, okay, they clearly need a new quarterback. But he has talent, right? You see the talent's there. He's like a Josh Allen that didn't develop. He's in year 3 now. I don't think it's too early to move on. You have 2 top 10 picks, just as the Jets did. We're going to take Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. Right now, he's my QB1. He's my number 10 player on my big board. I think you just have to move on from Daniel Jones, right? The turnovers, the inconsistency, the inaccuracies, the fumbles. I know I said turnovers, but the fumbles, oh my gosh. And honestly, he's a decent athlete, which should help considering their offensive line isn't great, hasn't been great. It's just not helped. He gets maybe 1 carry a game where it's like, wow, this guy's sneaky athletic. And they'll say that, on the commentary team, this guy's sneaky athleticism, wow. And it's like, yeah, he's sneaky, okay. Does sneaky athlete translate to amazing quarterback that's probably like 32 plus in QBR this year? Probably not. So we're going to replace him with Matt Corral, who right now is my QB1. The cluster of Corral, Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Carson Strong, even like Grayson McCall, if he came out in this draft, I don't think he will. Sam Hartman got some hype for a little bit from Wake Forest when they were undefeated. It's a weird QB class right now, right? I don't have all the answers, but right now, and I guess we can show my QB top 10 big board for a second. I pretty much named off everybody. How about Bailey Zapp? Can I get a Bailey Zapp Western Kentucky shout out? How about him? Leading the league the nation in passing yards and touchdowns. Good for him. But anyway, yeah, Giants at 6, Matt Corral, new quarterback. It's the exact same pick they took Daniel Jones. I think you have to reset. He's going into his 4th year. There's no way you're going to accept his player option, I wouldn't think. I think you just got to move on. And to that note, because I also mentioned their offensive line hasn't been particularly good, I actually think Ikem Ekwonu would be a nice pick for the Giants as well. But since he's gone, we're going to go with Evan Neal. Evan Neal, in my opinion, is the best offensive line prospect, at least right now. I think DeMarvin Leal would also be a good pick. I know they have Dexter Lawrence. I almost said McCluster. Dexter McCluster. Was that the running back from the Chiefs? Yeah, that's not who I mean. Dexter McCluster. That's a name right there. Chiefs return guy, receiver sometimes. Okay. Anyway, Evan Neal. He may end up switching from left tackle because you do have Andrew Thomas. I'm also not sold on Andrew Thomas being long-term left tackle. I think he's the guy that could actually move into guard, and you'd be better off. And you could play Matt Peart at right tackle. I don't know if I love that, but I think it's better than what they have right now. You definitely need to clear Nate Solder off the team. He needs to go. He needs to go, or else he needs to just, re-sign next year for like $1 million only, not like 12 million or whatever they're paying him. Let me see if I can find that real quickly. Nate Solder contract. He signed for 4 years, $62 million. That's wild. I mean, he was leaving the Patriots. It just goes to show the Patriots know when to let players go, right? He did agree to a restructure this year, so at least there's that. Anyway, off topic, but Evan Neal, I would honestly project him to win the left tackle job with the Giants. I think you move Andrew Thomas to guard. And honestly, I think you're better off, so I think you're happy doing that. I think you just need to do that. It's got to be a move. All right, Atlanta Falcons. Man, every year there's always teams that surprise me in horrible, gone wrong ways. I picked the Falcons to make the playoffs this year, and let me tell you, it's not looking like they're going to do that. It's just not looking good right now for that to happen. DeMarvin Leal is probably the best player on the board. You have Grady Jarrett, who is getting older, and some other guys like Marlon Davidson. I see the pick. I have seen with mine eyes the pick that must be made here. It's going to be George Karlaftis. They need edge so bad. They also traditionally have liked kind of bigger edge guys. Adrian Claiborne comes to mind. Guys that can play a little inside, a little outside. He can definitely play outside, but he also has the size to play in. And if you put him next to Grady Jarrett, that's a heck of a combo. I kind of like that as well. I kind of like it, which is good. Since it's my own mock draft, it's good that I like it. Edge has been something they really haven't had since, John Abraham? I mean, they drafted, or no, they didn't draft. They signed, who do they have right now? Dante Fowler. He's kind of bounced around from the Jaguars to the Rams, I believe, and now to the Falcons. He's a free agent to be. George Karlaftis is awesome as a prospect. He's not quite on the Thibodeau and Hutchinson level, but I do have him going here at 8. And he's actually number 11 on my big board, so I like it for the Falcons. I do think they need edge. I think Ajabo would be a good pick here, too. I like the potential of Ajabo about as much as Karlaftis. But having it be the Falcons here, I do think they'll go with the bigger option there with George. George Karlaftis. All right, pick 9. Carolina Panthers. Do you stick with Cam Newton? They just fired Joe Brady, by the way, offensive coordinator, former LSU offensive coordinator when they won the national championship with Joe Burrow. So a bit of a head scratcher. I know Carolina's offense hasn't been particularly good, but they've also had Sam Darnold and kind of a not as good Cam at QB. So, don't know about that one. But do you move on from those guys and draft a quarterback at 9? My QB2 in this class is Kenny Pickett. Do you take Kenny Pickett at 9, man? They need offensive line help so badly that it almost doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I really like Taylor Moton at right tackle. However, man, do you just take DeMarvin Leal? Stick him next to Derek Brown. You got Brian Burns on the edge. That sounds fun. That sounds really fun. Let's do that. No, it's rough. I want to do that, but I think their offensive line is just so not good right now. I mean, Greg Little was a guy that they were banking on being good, and they traded him to the Dolphins, where he's still not good. That kind of brings my decision to two players. That would be either Charles Cross or Kenyon Green. I think we're going to go Kenyon Green. He's another guy that's playing tackle at Texas A&M, but could also play guard if you needed him to, or if he just kind of fits there better. He's a surefire starter, right? And I get nothing in the NFL's for sure, but he's about as good of an O-line prospect you could hope for at that spot. And I don't see him on my big board. Why is that? Where is he? Where is he? He's missing. I've misplaced Kenyon Green. He's number 20. There he is. Okay. Kenyon Green on the big board. Going number 9 to the Panthers. It's a little high. But again, I think O-line is just so important. O-line, edge, quarterback. Those are kind of the most important positions as I hear one of my cats going crazy. And we're going to move on. That's Carolina Panthers at 9. All right. Minnesota Vikings. I mean, do you just trade Kirk Cousins, bro? They just lost to the Lions. You can't put it all on Cousins, right? He had a pretty good game. They scored 23 points against the Lions, though. That is what I will say about that. They could also use O-line help. Their line hasn't been particularly good. I think this is another one where it's kind of clear who you need to take here, though. It's going to be DeMarvin Leal. The Vikings spent a lot of money in the last 2 off seasons bringing in defensive linemen. First, it was Michael Pierce, who opted out in 2020. And then you had this offseason where you got Sheldon Richardson, and probably more importantly long-term is Dalvin Tomlinson. Probably next year, Richardson and Pierce will be gone, I'm guessing, as free agents. We're going to give him DeMarvin Leal to come in and be the true number 1 nose tackle, or defensive tackle in that defensive line. Danielle Hunter's awesome, but he needs some help and more than... I almost worded that poorly. His biggest help on the defensive line has probably been Everson Griffin this year, and that is not currently happening. That's another situation we don't have to get into. During the mock draft video, we can talk about that another time, perhaps. But pick 10, DeMarvin Leal, Minnesota Vikings. Easy pick there. If he falls to 10, I'd be kind of surprised, but that's just kind of how this big board, the board has played out in this situation. That brings us to the Saints at 11. The Saints just got whooped by Buffalo last week, I guess, at the time of recording. I know Jameis Winston is possibly the QB of the future, right? It's not Taysom Hill. We had seen that, and we have seen more of that, right? Because they also got beat by, was it Dallas? Since recording this. I know Kenny Pickett's my QB too, but I almost want to say Malik Willis goes before him. I really like Willis and Desmond Ridder. They're also both redshirt seniors, which is something to note, as is Kenny Pickett. Do I want to go quarterback, though? Their defense is kind of looking rough right now, to be honest, long term. You almost want to take another corner or another edge. They just took Peyton Turner last year, and they have Marcus Davenport still. But David Ajabo is tempting, man, at 11. That's tempting. Do the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton go quarterback, though? I think they do. I think you have to. Like, it's not going to be Ian Book, right? I loved Ian Book at Notre Dame. He's kind of like a Sam Ellinger, where like yeah, he's definitely going to be a backup. No shame. But we're going to go Malik Willis here. Malik Willis, to me, he's not on the level of how good Trey Lance was in college. However, I mean, Trey Lance was playing FCS. That's not to slight Trey Lance. I think he's awesome. Malik Willis, despite being number 39 on my big board, I think he's going to go a lot higher because of his potential and because he's a quarterback. Quarterbacks are going to go. It's just going to happen. And the Saints picking at 11, I mean, that's rare territory for the Saints. They're usually picking in the 20s. So grab your quarterback, hope it pans out. I think Malik Willis definitely is a first-round pick. I do kind of wonder how the QBs are going to get drafted, what kind of order that's going to go. But for Sean Payton, I mean, you take somebody you think you can develop, and I think Malik Willis has a lot of potential. So we're going to go with Malik Willis. All right, I need a quick break there, Mullet. Quick break. I'm gonna pause. All right, quick break is over. It wasn't too quick, but here I am. The Philadelphia Eagles, man. Jalen Hurts looks good at times, and Gardner Minshew looked good. Granted, not the highest level of competition. I mean, it's a high level of competition, but not the best team he was playing against. The Eagles' picks, by the way, have moved up the board. They had 3 top 10 picks at one point. Now they're picking 12, 13, and 16. They need edge. They need edge badly. Brandon Graham is like 33, I want to say. How old is Brandon Graham? He's 33. Yep. Brandon Graham's 33. You have Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett. You got 3 first-round picks. I think you got to spend one of them on David Ojabo. I think that guy's potential is crazy high. To get him at 12 is big. I think if they end up with a top 10 pick, I think they have to consider him there, even probably over Karlaftis. So to get him at 12 is a nice pickup. Have I been keeping up with my big board here? I've been highlighting the players I take off my big board. Okay. Jabo, there we go. All right, Philadelphia Eagles once again at pick 13. Back-to-back picks here. I think you have to consider the QBs. I know it's weird. It probably sounds weird, but Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick who has played fairly well at times. He's looked really bad also at times. He is a crazy athlete. You have 3 first-round picks. You definitely have to consider it. But there's so many really good players still available here at the top of the board. They don't really need O-line unless they trade one of their veterans. Jason Kelce? Why'd that sound weird in my head? Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks, or Lane Johnson. But you have, I mean, other than those 3 guys, you have Jordan Mailata, you have Andre Dillard still for another year, you have Isaac Sumalo, and you drafted Landon Dickerson. So it's a pretty stacked offensive line. You don't really need to take a guy like Charles Cross, Tyler Linderbaum, unless you trade one of those guys. How about secondary? I think corner is probably their next biggest need. How about Kyer Elam? Let's get a rookie corner in there to play opposite Darius Slay. Kyer Elam. Right now, for me, he's my corner 2. I think there's a pretty big conversation. Even with Derek Stingley really coming off an injury and coming off really 2 kind of so-so seasons where he dominated as a freshman on that championship team and then just kind of didn't really do much else. But, I mean, he was so good as a freshman. It was wild. So, Kyer Elam, good in his own right. We'll give him to the Eagles at 13. Now with the Raiders, still no receivers off the board. The Raiders really need receiver badly. You basically have Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, and occasionally Bryan Edwards. They picked up Deshaun Jackson, who's not a long-term solution. Wide receiver definitely is needed here, but Jordan Davis, and also offensive line, but Jordan Davis being here out of Georgia, the 6'6", 340-pound nose tackle. That's like a I don't know what to call him. An organizational changer as far as one player, one personnel member. Like Khalil Mack was that for them. And the first thing that their previous head coach and regime decided to do was trade him immediately. Let's take Jordan Davis. Plug up the run, get after it. I mean, he's massive, and he does not move like he's a massive person. He moves like he's 100 pounds lighter. It's wild. I keep saying wild and crazy and potential. Those are just like completely mock draft words. Like if I'm not saying those words, I'm not doing a good job. Jordan Davis at pick 14 to the Las Vegas Raiders, not the Oakland Raiders. That would have been 3 years ago now. Let's see. I got Elam. There's Jordan Davis. Ta-da. Okay. Cleveland Browns. They're a team that does need D-line, but they have Myles Garrett. You can hide a lot of deficiencies with your other three starters when you have Myles Garrett. I think Baker Mayfield is a fine quarterback. I don't think you need to replace him or move on. I think you just pay him. He does need weapons, and you never can make it work with Odell Beckham, right? It's weird that didn't happen, but it just never did. Jarvis Landry, I think he's got to be at least 30 now as well, right? I know I'm referencing me talking about Brandon Graham when I say also. He's 29. What else do they have? Donovan Peoples-Jones. Do they still have Rashard Higgins? I mean, we're not talking about elite talent guys here. Do you keep the Ohio State receiver in state? Or do you take who I think is really going to be the wide receiver one of this draft class? I think you do. Pick 15. We're going to take wide receiver out of Alabama, Jamison Williams, at pick 15 here. Okay, back to my train of thought. Jamison Williams, wide receiver one in this class to me. I love my Ohio State guys. I love Garrett Wilson. I love Chris Olave. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. He'll be in my mock drafts in a couple years. Jamison Williams is just different, man. Makes every play. He made John Mechie look like a wide receiver too on his own team. It's wild. I don't know how he did it. He's built differently. He is assembled in a alternative manner, so to speak. Jamison Williams, pick 15. Cleveland Browns. There you go. All right. This will mark the halfway point of the first round. Philadelphia Eagles, with now their third pick. Quarterbacks are still in play, man. You took two defensive players so far, but your offense really has not been great. You could even look at another receiver. They've invested so many picks lately in receivers, though. I mean, back-to-back first-round picks with Jalen Reagor and now Devonta Smith. You took, what's his name? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. You took him over DK Metcalf. Quez Watkins really isn't bad. So they don't have the worst group of receivers. Linebacker, I guess, is in play here. Middle of the first round. A guy like Devin Lloyd. Or maybe even Nakobe Dean. You've already picked two defensive players, man. Do you just really try to improve that defense in the first round? If you're considering the quarterbacks, I mean Desmond Ritter or Kenny Pickett are your best options here at pick 16. It's tough. It's tough, man. I'm thinking. I'm thinking they could also use safety help. Jaquan Brisker for me is probably safety too. Jalen Catalon, I don't think I have him in my top 40. He's probably right outside the top 40 though. The safety from Arkansas. Not going to be considered here at 16, but a prospect to definitely keep an eye on. I haven't mentioned the combine at all. A lot's going to change with the combine. A lot of players are going to go up, move down, all that stuff. Man, I think I'm going to pass on QB for the Eagles. I know they have 3 picks. I think the weird combination on the team right now of Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew is going to be enough for them to not take a quarterback. But then what do you take? If you're passing on the QB, I mean, do you pass on a quarterback to take a linebacker? Their linebacking core is not amazing. They don't have a true number 1 linebacker, I suppose. But do you take a linebacker over a potential starting quarterback? I don't think you probably do. And yet, I kind of like the idea. Give me Devin Lloyd, the Utah linebacker for Philadelphia at 16. He's my number 12 player on the big board, so the value to me is definitely there. You're getting a guy who is going to be probably the play caller, the signal caller, at least on defense. I kind of like it. I know I'm giving them 3 defensive players, nothing on offense. I know that looks weird. I'm just not ready to commit to one of those QBs that highly for the Eagles. The feelings I have against Daniel Jones, I'm on the verge of thinking that with Jalen Hurts, but he shows more flashes of, wow, this guy's actually capable of maybe leading a team, and I don't see that really from Jones, which isn't relevant to the Eagles draft picks. And again, I know it's 3 defensive players. It's also 3 defensive starters, right? Like you got 3 picks. You're picking immediate impact starting caliber players for your team. And if you take a QB, maybe he wins the job right away. Maybe they sit him behind Hurts still. Maybe he even goes behind Gardner Minshew. Maybe he never plays for them. I mean, they traded Carson Wentz in favor of Jalen Hurts, so anything's possible. Pick 17, Ben Roethlisberger is gone, right? Like they just beat the Ravens, so I say he's gone, but he's not gone yet. It's still possible they could fight their way into the playoffs. I think quarterback kind of needs to be in play here. We could even talk about Carson Strong a little bit. He's probably the most similar quarterback that I would consider at this pick. Boy, I think, he's even from Pittsburgh, man. I think we're going to go Kenny Pickett. He's still on the board. He's my QB 2. And in this mock draft, he's actually going 3rd among the quarterbacks. So we're going to go with Pickett from Pitt to Pittsburgh. How do you like that? How do you like that? He's very close to being QB1 to me, by the way. They won their conference championship game. He had a great season. I mean, he had the weird fake slide thing, right? People are kind of going crazy about. I didn't, that doesn't factor into his draft stock at all, but I thought it was a cool move, I don't know, man. I kind of liked it. Kenny Pickett, 17, Pittsburgh. Number 18 now, Denver Broncos. I mean, if the top 3 quarterbacks weren't gone, I would say instantly they need to go quarterback with this pick. They did trade Von Miller, so if one of the top couple edge guys is there, you probably strongly consider that. Don't need secondary. Your secondary is very strong. They locked up two of their receivers in the forms of new contracts for Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. And they have Jerry Jeudy. And they have KJ Hamler, who I like. Second-year guy from Penn State who I think is injured. Could go Charles Cross to play right tackle immediately. You may even start talking about Trevor Penning at this spot. Darian Kinnard at this spot. I think it's got to be QB. I know it's going to be back-to-back quarterbacks here. I think Denver would probably have preferred one of the top three that went off the board. But we're going to go with... Who are we going to go with here? My first reaction was going to be to say Desmond Ridder, and I think we're going to do that. I still like Sam Howell as an NFL prospect, but I think there's guys in this draft class that surpass him, like Desmond Ridder. So it might even be better for Howell to go back to school, honestly, for another year. We're going to go Ridder to the Broncos, though. I keep opening this folder. I'm not meaning to. Okay. Miami Dolphins at pick 19. This is a pick I've made before. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, yeah, this probably needs to be made. I like Charles Cross, and I keep saying Charles Cross with like every pick because he's probably a starting caliber tackle immediately. But the Dolphins O-line just in general is so bad. But they have some young guys that are like decent quality players, right? Like Liam Eichenberg, not very good, but he's probably going to start for them. Austin Jackson, probably overdrafted, but he's probably going to start for them for a while. I mentioned Greg Little earlier. One thing they definitely don't have, really, is a center. I think they're going with Austin Ryder right now, former Chief. We're going to go Tyler Linderbaum and get Tua Tagovailoa, a true center, to work with. Linderbaum's great. Travis Frederick comes to mind as like, this guy is a first-round caliber center. He's just a really good center. I don't know what else to say about him, you know? That's just what he is. He's a good center. So there you go. Miami gets a center. All right, very exciting stuff there. It's a good pick, man. I don't know what else to say about him. He's a little small, I guess. That's probably his only knock. He's like 290. I think if he bulks up even like 5-10 pounds, he's fine. Or even better as a prospect. The Washington football team, I mean, they're rocking Taylor Heineke at quarterback because of Ryan Fitzpatrick going down early. Plus, the top 4 QBs are all off the board. I think here's finally the Charles Cross pick. We're going to go Charles Cross to the Washington football team. Another guy that's like, yeah, this is a starting caliber tackle. He's probably not going to be Trent Williams. So I don't mean to get Washington fans like super pumped, like, oh, we're getting the next Hall of Fame All-Pro tackle for sure. Here he comes. He's another guy that has a lot of potential, and he's young. He's a redshirt sophomore, which I kind of forgot about that. He is very young. But other than Brandon Scherff, I don't think you really have much on the O-line that's for sure going to start for you down the road. Like Chase Rollier. Rollier? I think it's Rollier, man. I'm not 100% sure on that one. He's the center. He's fine. Brandon Scherff is great. Who is it? It's not Ty Nishke. Who's that tackle they have? Cornelius Lucas, former backup with the Lions, who's now starting for them. Probably not a long-term fit, right? So get Charles Cross there at 20. Interesting decision now for the Cincinnati Bengals at 21, who have just seen a run on offensive linemen go. Not really a run, 2 of them. I think you got to stay with O-line, though. It kind of boils down to what you prefer here, because I like Trevor Penning. I think he could start for them at right tackle immediately. I also like Darian Kennard. I think he could be your right tackle, or he could play either guard spot. Huh. That's a tough one. What else would they consider taking? Because the Bengals took space in his name, Jamar Chase, in this past draft when a lot of people thought they should go Penei Sewell. A lot of people thought they should go Rashawn Slater, the people that thought Slater was a better prospect than Sewell. And they took Jamar Chase because you don't need a block if you just chuck the ball to the best player on the team. And that would probably be Jamar Chase. I mean, secondary probably could use some work long term. Where was I? What was my train of thought? Offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me get back to that. Trevor Penning. Let's just do it, man. Trevor Penning, he's going to play right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe even left tackle if you're feeling spicy, man. I don't know. I like Jonah Williams, but maybe he moves inside. Maybe he plays right tackle. I don't know. We'll leave it to the Cincinnati Bengals to figure it out. I'm just taking the picks, right? Trevor Penning, pick 21 to the Cincinnati Bengals, who kind of are bengling it up, unfortunately. I love Burrow. I wish Cincinnati the best. I wish they could make the playoffs, but I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to. All right. The Los Angeles Chargers, not the San Diego Chargers. Not the Las Vegas Chargers yet. I think an edge to replace Melvin Ingram is kind of important. Joey Bosa is awesome, clearly. They've also moved into more of a 3-4, which is odd to me, but it is what it is, I guess. I mean, a wide receiver, too, like Keenan Allen's great. Keenan Allen's got to be at least 30 now, too, right? I know I keep looking up random players' ages. I apologize. He's 29. I mean, he's still got several years before it's like, are they going to move on from Keenan Allen? I don't know. But if you have Keenan Allen, and even if you keep Mike Williams, let's just throw Garrett Wilson into that offense. Garrett Wilson, I think, kind of compares well to Justin Jefferson as a prospect, where he's an insane slot guy, but I think will be more in the NFL. And also, he's my number 9 ranked player on my big board. I think the value here at 22, getting a top 10 player at any time is great value. Just so happens to be a receiver in this case. And you need to continue to build for Justin Herbert, who, again, looks great at times, and then he kind of looks at times. Not to say like Jalen Hurts or Daniel Jones, but sometimes nonetheless, you know what I mean? So offensive line is still going to be something they could build as well. Like Darian Kennard would be a good pick. Heck, you could take Daniel Falele, throw him out there at 380 pounds. He's massive, man. Another guy I want to mention that's probably not going to make this list is he. He's not in my top 40 yet, is he? Not quite. He was on the list of like 8 players that I left out. I could have made a list of 50, I guess, for the big board. But Bernard Raymond, and I'm not trying to claim credit for being like, oh yeah, don't forget about Bernard Raymond, because I'll be honest, I've heard his name mentioned before. It's not like me being like, oh yeah, I totally watched film on Central Michigan, and I know Bernard Raymond. He's awesome. No, I mean, he's a good prospect. I just wanted to mention his name because I think he could be a guy that post-combine maybe gets some first-round hype, and I think will be probably a day 2 pick. So, okay, we got that out of the way. I think more receivers are on the horizon. We've only had 2 go off the board, so a lot more are going to go like in the next 20 picks or so. For the Buffalo Bills, My last mock draft, the one comment that talked about um, what they would have done rather than what I would have done was to say that the Bills need interior O line help rather than a corner. I don't disagree with that still, and I think Darian Kennard would be a good pick. But looking at their corners, Trey White is unbelievable, top five corner, right? Who is injured currently, but should be back next year. You have Teron Johnson, who's more of a nickel. He's good. He's a good nickel, but he's more of a nickel. And then you have Levi Wallace, who is going to be a free agent. Let me just check on that real quick, by the way. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And honestly, that won't really affect my decision making anyway. Because I think the corners that are available are just too good to kind of pass on a corner right now, as I can't find Levi Wallace's contract for some reason. A 1-year deal? Did he re-sign for 1 year this year? Oh, I wonder if he was restricted. He was, yeah. Okay, well that explains that. So here's my thinking. Levi Wallace is probably going to get paid somewhere else, a big deal that Buffalo's probably not going to give him. So you take a corner and you kind of reset that age and value. You are spending a first round pick, but you're getting a starting corner. And with Andrew Booth still on the board at 23, I think you're going to go ahead and take him to be your other outside starting cornerback. He is number 24 on my big board. It's pretty even value for the selection at 23. And he's in the conversation for top corner. You also got to talk about Ahmad Gardner, Sauce, Roger McCreary, Martin Emerson has kind of moved up the board a lot. Darian Kendrick even out of Georgia now, not Clemson. And Trent McDuffie I like too, but I like him more as a nickel guy. So Andrew Booth at 23 to the Bills, I think makes sense. Now we come once again to the Detroit Lions. And a reminder from earlier, they went with Aiden Hutchinson at pick 1 rather than Kayvon Thibodeau. I say they, it's my mock draft. I know I did it. But still, I digress, I guess. How about a receiver, man? That seems like a pretty good idea, huh? I know Amon-Ra St. Brown made a insane, like, team boosting touchdown catch at the end of that game. They beat the Vikings. But you need other receivers. They already let go of Tyrell Williams. You know, Megatron's not coming back through the door, so. How about, and I love Olave, so I'm really strongly considering Chris Olave here. But Treylon Burks and Drake London both have like physical freak bodies for wide receivers. I think I'm going to take Treylon Burks here for the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions historically have loved taking wide receivers high. And I joked before I started making this mock that they could take Jameson Williams at pick 1. I don't think they'll do that, but you never know. So we are going to give them a receiver here down the board at 24. I think it makes sense. And honestly, moving on quickly to the Chiefs at 25, we're going to keep the trend going. We're going to take Chris Olave to the Chiefs. And you're like, oh my gosh, Skillet, but the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they do. They also are second in the league in drops this year. There's that. So I think they need another receiver. They're counting on like Josh Gordon, and they brought back DeMarcus Robinson. Mecole Hardman still hasn't shown he can be a real reliable option. You could consider Jahan Dotson here as well, and really even Drake London would give you a receiver type that you don't really have at 6'5". But we're going to go with Olave. I just think he's, you're going to hear words like smooth with Olave, and that doesn't really make sense from a football standpoint, and yet I agree with it. He's a great route runner. You could say he's crisp, great route runner, great hands, all that stuff. He doesn't have the quite insane athleticism as his teammate Garrett Wilson or maybe even Jameson Williams. But he's still an insane wide receiver prospect. So at 25 for the Chiefs, I've mocked him there before, so it's not a real shock. I like the fit, and I like the value, so makes sense there for the Chiefs. At pick 26 now, Dallas Cowboys are up. They've been kind of up and down the season, but slotting in right now at pick 26 is nice for them. And what do you think? Another receiver, probably? Let Michael Gallup. You know what? Bring back Michael Gallup. We'll just take another receiver anyway. No. I'm leaning towards offensive line. They have incredible offensive linemen on that team that are aging, that have had now lengthy injury histories. And they also have Connor Williams, who's not particularly on that level, who is going to be a free agent. And Darian Kennard is here. And I think, you look at these picks, Tyron Smith was a first-round pick. Zach Martin was. Travis Frederick, who's obviously gone now, he was a first-round pick. La'el Collins was not a first-round pick for another reason, but could have been, had that talent. We're going to go Darian Kennard. We're going to try to continue to build that offensive line up and keep it sustained with these guys getting older. So Darian Kennard should immediately start at guard for the Dallas Cowboys. Baltimore Ravens at 27 now. I hate to say it, but I think corner is kind of a big need. Marlon Humphrey's great. Marcus Peters, one of now like 4 corners they have out for the year. Tavon Young is a smaller nickel guy, and then Jimmy Smith is 32-ish. I don't really want to look up all these players' ages that I keep mentioning, but Jimmy Smith has got to be like 32. That is not the same Jimmy Smith that I was looking for. That is a jazz musician, Jimmy Smith. Shout out to him. Yeah, Jimmy Smith is now 33. We're going to go with Roger McCreary. And I think this could honestly be like the replacement for Marcus Peters, unfortunately. McCreary has risen maybe more than anyone else outside of like Trevor Penning. You could argue Ahmad Gardner here or even Trent McDuffie, but I really like McCreary. He's had a great year for Auburn. So that's why he's going to go 27. And Baltimore, I mean, they could draft me, and I'd turn into a pretty good player, I feel like. Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but still, you know what I mean. They have a very good history of draft picks, so. All right, about 5 more picks to go. This has gone a little long now, about an hour, so I'll try to not speed run these last few picks, but go a little faster. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My first thought was receiver. Antonio Brown situation. Mike Evans getting older. Chris Godwin being an impending free agent. Jalen Darden is there, who I do like. There's guys like Jahan Dotson and John Mechie available, as well as David Bell. Offensive line, there's not really a surefire first-round guy on the offensive line left on the board for me. I don't think I would take edge either. Give me Jaquan Brisker. He's going to play strong safety across from Antoine Winfield. And he is a hard hitter out of Penn State. He's number 30 on my big board. No, he's not. That's Dotson. Sorry. He's number 27 on my big board. My bad. And I think he's honestly going to be an instant starter like Winfield was. I think he's good value there at 28. I don't know, man. Tampa doesn't have a ton of needs in the long term. Except for quarterback. Long term, I guess. They're set up pretty well for the future. I mean, you could consider QB, I guess, if you don't think Kyle Trask is going to be the heir apparent. But is Sam Howell the heir apparent to Tom Brady? Probably not. Probably not. Let's just go out on a limb and say that. Tennessee Titans. I think the board fell pretty well for them, and I know it's just a linebacker, so it's not like the most impactful position. But Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown are both scheduled to be free agents. So we're going to take Nakobe Dean out of Georgia at pick 29. Nakobe Dean, he's a bit undersized, but he's definitely a coverage linebacker. Not really, he doesn't really have the size to be a thumper. You think of Rashaan Evans is an okay example, but if you think of Dante Hightower from the Patriots, he's like a thumper middle linebacker, right? That's not Nakobe Dean. They play the same position. That's not him, but he's a good coverage guy, right? So I like that fit. Pick 30 to the Green Bay Packers. Who knows what's going to happen with their offseason? Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, David Bakhtiari, both Preston and Zadarius Smith. They could have a lot of turnover, which is weird for the Packers. I like Sauce Gardner still. They did just take Eric Stokes, and they have Jair Alexander, though. I think you have to... Oh, boy. Do they take Drake London because they like trees? The Green Bay Packers love their, 6'4" plus receivers. Do they spend a first-round pick on a receiver just because he's tall? They actually might. They might actually go for that. I don't know. I like the idea kind of them taking another edge, even though Rashawn Gary is scary good and Kenny Clark has always been really good. It's not going to be a quarterback. We can mark that off. Who knows? Maybe they'll take Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. They could always use another running back, right? No, for me, if I'm drafting for all these teams, right? It's my mock draft. I'm going to take John Mechie with the thought that if you lose Devontae Adams, John Mechie can stand in pretty quickly and be your number one target. Even if you lose Aaron Rodgers, if it's Jordan Love next year, I like John Mechie to be their number one guy. Like I said earlier, he's also coming off a torn ACL now, which sucks, or at least an ACL injury. That just happened in the SEC championship. It sucks for him. It sucks for Bama. I still think he's going to be a borderline first-round pick, so we throw him in there at the end at 30. The New England Patriots, man, they just won a game in which Mac Jones passed 3 times. And I know it was a blizzard and windy, but they won a game doing that. I mean, what more do they need, right? I think the obvious pick here is going to be Sauce Gardner. At pick 31 to get a guy who's in conversation for the top cornerback in this class. Now, I personally still feel like it's Derek Stingley, but Ahmad Gardner is good in his own right. He's also 6'2". He's a little taller than McCreary or not AJ Terrell. Andrew Booth is who I'm trying to think of. Also out of Clemson. They traded Stephon Gilmore. J.C. Jackson is set to be a free agent. They may not choose to pay him. They don't have a whole lot else at corner. Not Josh Jackson. Who else do they have at corner? That's bugging me. There's also Joanne Williams. Who's their other corner? Sorry. I need to look. It's going to bother me. Patriots corner. Is he playing? I can't think of his name. Cornerbacks. Oh yeah, they got Sean Wade. I forgot about that. Am I crazy? Am I missing somebody here? Somebody on their team is missing. I don't know who it is. I'm looking at their depth chart. Jonathan Jones. There you go. He might be their number one corner next year. I don't know if he's built for that. So we're going to give him Gardner. Sorry about my my inability to think of a name there. It happens quite frequently, honestly. More frequently than you would think. Or maybe you know that by now. I don't know. But anyway, the current standings right now are predicting a Patriots and Cardinals Super Bowl, by the way. That would be kind of exciting, I guess. Hopefully the Cardinals would win that. But I'm just saying. Cardinals on the clock at 32. This is the last pick of this mock draft. And how do I want to end it? What do the Cardinals need? The Cardinals also need corner. We've seen a run on corners here. If Gardner was there, I'd probably say him. If McCreary was there, I'd probably say him. I don't know if I want to take Trent McDuffie. He reminds me a lot of Byron Murphy, which I know is like an easy comparison, also out of Washington. I think they need an edge as well. I like Chandler Jones, obviously, still. He's awesome. And they have J.J. Watt, who's unfortunately injured a ton lately. Offensive line is another need. I don't think it's the biggest need, though. They could even add another receiver. A.J. Green's not going to be there very long. Christian Kirk, I think, is going to be a free agent. Andy Isabella is not it. Obviously, Hopkins is great. And Rondale Moore is like a... I think he can be more than a slot or gadget guy. I think he's really good. But if you added in like Jahan Dotson or David Bell, that wouldn't really be the worst thing in the world. I do like the idea of them taking another edge, though. Maybe even a safety. You have Budda Baker. You could add in a safety like Daxton Hill. I mentioned Catalan earlier. Verone McKinley. Basically anything but a quarterback, which is weird for the team that has the best record in the league right now. You could even say running back. I mentioned Kenneth Walker. I don't really think there's going to be a first-round running back. I think you see the value of taking a running back late or just not taking a quarterback at all in the draft sometimes. And, you pick up a guy like Philip Lindsay who's good for a couple years, or James Robinson's been really good for the Jaguars. You don't really need to spend a first-round pick on a running back now. You see what kind of state the Giants are in right now, so... What will I take with pick 32 for the Arizona Cardinals here? I think I'm going to go edge. I like the idea of them taking somebody... If you think about their 3-4 linebackers, you got Chandler Jones as an edge, you got Zaven Collins, and you have Isaiah Simmons, who's really an exciting player. Kind of Micah Parsons-esque, those two. Similar players, a bit. Kyle Hamilton kind of reminds me of those guys, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Where he could play safety or linebacker. Maybe more of like a Jeremy Chin type of remembrance, not like Isaiah Simmons, freaky athlete. I want to take Drake Jackson, man. I think he's a first-round player out of USC. Let's do it. Drake Jackson. Last pick of this mock draft, to pick 32 to the Arizona Cardinals. That's 2 USC players in the first round. Hey, shout out Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. I don't know, random. Drake Jackson, he's in conversation like that second-tier group of edge players in this class. Bajai Sanders, Brenton Cox. Georgia has like probably 3 edge guys that are interesting prospects this year. But yeah, that's going to about do it. We went over the big board. We went over the top 10 quarterback board. And now we have done our mock draft. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I suck at ending videos, but really, thank you for watching. As I mentioned, the first mock draft on the channel got 1,000 views. And I think 13 likes. We'll shoot for 2,000 views. And how about 20 likes on this video, guys? So, thanks for watching. Drop a like and subscribe if you want to, if you like the content. Most of what I post is streaming. I've been doing occasional videos like this, though, that I know Mullet especially worked really hard on. So another round of applause for Mullet. Mullet, if you want to add in a clap sound effect right there, that would be a good time to do it. If you want to like plug your channel across the screen, that works too. But yeah, the next video you will see mock draft related probably won't be for a while. It'll probably be in like a month or two, and the combine won't even have happened yet at that point. So we're still a ways away in this process. This was fun for me. I love doing mock draft stuff. I love looking at big boards and stuff. So it was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Thumbs up. All right, Mullet. Whew. I talked a lot, huh? All right, I'm done. I'm gonna stop it.